Not a whole heck of a lot can be said about the individual Turbo Zords. For all intents and purposes, with the exception of Red Lightning here, they all just kind of look like I said, with the exception of Red Lightning, and that's a great way to start the first video in 3 years, I hope, by the way. They just kind of blend in with the environment. You know, a healthy coating of black gloss paint, and you know, you could pass it off as the Batmobile, maybe take off the front fender, the outrageous front fender. What is that doing on a race vehicle like this? And you know, you never know the difference. I believe this had only 2 decals attached to it, there, and that was it. I take it back, the headlights also had decals on them too. This was painted on back here. Nice undercarriage, well, simple undercarriage details, some techie details here, some generic fill-in-the-blank stuff here. Oh, trademark, let's see. 96 Bandai, made in Thailand. Good to know. So yes, here's Red Lightning. And by the way, there will be more detailed pictures over on CollectionDX.com, so go ahead and check out the link below when you're done watching this video, please. This is the Mountain Blaster Turbo Zord. What a great name for a giant 4x6. Now, even though it's got only 4 wheels on it, I imagine it had 6 wheels on it at some point, so I imagine. Not that it ever did, but it definitely looks like a 4x6. This thing is a souped-up monster of a thing. Not unlike some of the stuff you would see on the streets today, which is something kind of interesting about the Turbo Zords. Not that they're trying to imitate the Transformers trademark brand name, but they just kind of blend in. Like I said, with the exception of the Red Lightning, you know, you'd be hard-pressed to try to spot these in a crowd of cars and trucks. I mean, who hasn't seen, not necessarily in this color, but who hasn't seen, you know, the huge front fender with a bunch of outrageous light emplacements? I blanked on what this is called. By the way, the Mountain Blaster is the only one of the 5 Turbo Zords that has die-cast metal. This framework here, and then for the transformation, the headlights here, the main headlights, it's actually a transformation joint. The knee connector joints, those are both die-cast as well. But then I'm not supposed to tell you about that till we get to the transformation now, am I? Again, some generic, techie-looking undercarriage stuff, which is nice. It's nice they did that. Even the bed has a little bit of detail as well. So, you know, that's nice. By the way, I should point out that Red Lightning is the only one that has anything close to rubber tires, although that's not rubber. It's actually some sort of a, I want to say PVC, but it's soft enough it's not PVC. Can't quite figure out what that is. Next up we have Desert Thunder. Desert Thunder for an SUV, or is this a family van? I can't really decide which one it is. I don't think it's an SUV. It might be. Clearly it was driven by soccer moms. I know it's a stereotype, but then again, that's why the stereotype exists. So, Desert Thunder. Don't really associate green with a desert. Still, very cool name. Even has a roof rack right there, which is all well and good. Some actually good-looking, or should I say realistic-looking, undercarriage detail right there. Both the back wheels and the front wheels are tied together. I like how each of the vehicles, they also have their own individual branding on them. Let's see. Like this one's Power Vehicle CR800 along the tire rim. And all of them have it too. Even Red Lightning has them. I completely forgot. Power Vehicle CR400 for the front and the back wheels. And Mountain Blaster CR800 on the front and back. Nope, back wheels are CR1000. So, it's nice. It's kind of a nice little detail they added on there. Like, they didn't need to, but they did. CR800 for the front and the back on Dune Star. Now, this is better named. This is very obviously a Jeep. Small SUV, I suppose. Back when SUVs were a big thing, back in the late 80s, early 90s. I kind of like Dune, kind of out of all of them, Dune Star, Wind Chaser are my favorite ones just because they don't look unreasonably proportioned. Yeah, the windows are a little narrow. Like, if they could have taken this and stretched it out a little bit, I'm not trying to do commentary right now, but if they'd taken this and stretched it out a little bit, you'd be hard-pressed not to know that this was actually a giant combat vehicle of some kind. I don't know my Power Rangers Turbo very well, and those who do prefer not to, but I don't think the Turbo Zords ever actually fired a shot, like ever, by themselves. Maybe Mountain Blaster, just because it had the Turbo Megazord's beam cannons built into the lights up here, but I'm not sure. Are those fog lights? What are those? But again, has a nice, somewhat realistic undercarriage detail, different from Desert Thunder, of course. Nice grille pattern right there. Headlights had decals. And again, a different roof rack from Desert Thunder as well. Slightly different. They're similar. They have similar shape to them, but some of the detail is slightly different. And then last but not least, we have the little two-door coupe that is Wind Chaser. Again, another very nice name. That's one of the interesting things about the Turbo Zords here. They're not called Pink Turbo Zord 5, Red Turbo Zord 1, or Blue Turbo Zord 2, you know, on. Unlike the vast majority of Zords, which appear both before and after Power Rangers Turbo, the Turbo Zords are actually graced with unique names that do not include the word Zord. Yeah, you could say Red Lightning Turbo Zord, you could say Wind Chaser Turbo Zord, but then, you know, where's the fun in that? I don't know why it is they called them individual names, because they don't really have... They're not vehicles like artificial intelligence and Zords with their individual personalities. We hadn't gotten those, and actually, I remember correctly, we've never gotten them. But it's interesting to note that, again, it's not Red Turbo Zord 1 or Blue Turbo Zord or something along those lines. It's Red Lightning, Mountain Blaster, Desert Thunder, Dune Star, Wind Chaser. That's actually fairly unique to Power Rangers Turbo and all the Zords that you saw therein. They had unique names attached to them. It wasn't just, yeah, these 5 sub-Zords put together, they're called the Turbo Zords, but when you refer to them individually, you don't use the word Zord, and I kind of like that. And so, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the Turbo Zords simply are what they are. They have no gimmicks to them whatsoever, except for the fact that they can roll. That's it. That's all that there is to them. In what was fairly rare, but not necessarily unique, for Power Rangers Turbo in 1996, the transmissions that you saw on the screen were identical to what you see in the actual toys. There aren't really any hidden levers or hidden switches. Actually, there aren't any hidden switches that I'm aware of. I mean, I've had this toy for quite some time. There might be hidden switches on there that I don't know about. You know, maybe these doors can open up on the side. But the transformation that you saw on screen, pretty much what you're going to see here. So much so, in fact, that I can actually recreate the transformation process almost shot for shot. I'm not going to because I'm lazy and, well, I don't really have the best shooting background that I used to. But the transformations are pretty much what you saw on screen. You separate the thing in half. I lied earlier, by the way. There's a little bit of die-cast metal in this joint right here. So, but anyways, you have to push up on the underside of the door to get this loose, and then you kind of wedge your finger back here and you just slip it out. Usually not from that angle. And then you just slide this up into this little tab here, clicks inside the wheel well. Done. And then you flip out the hand and you open up the joint right here. Now this one because I've actually had this toy, I'm the one who bought it. I bought it, you know, from the Toys R Us. And this particular one, this joint is a bit loose, but it's okay because, you know, it isn't used for any posability. Oops, did I give that away too soon? Sorry about that. We'll do the same thing over here. This joint, on the other hand, still has a little bit of the click to it. So, like that. And then ordinarily, all 5 Turbozords are just kind of running down the road, and that's it. I'm going to move these guys out of the way, give myself a little bit of room. And then Wind Chaser. Did I say Wind Charger earlier? I keep wanting to say Wind Charger. That's totally wrong. Wind Chaser. I'll correct myself now, just in case I goofed up earlier. And all you do is you just snap it into either side just like that, just like in the show. as I demoed earlier, you lift these up, spread apart the two halves of the hood, and then you open up these die-cast metal joints here, which still snap into place. Click and click. Put it down like that. I gotta remember which one goes to which side here. Fold that up. It's actually a multi-part ratchet right there. It clicks into a bunch of different positions. And then this one goes here. Let's see, alright, yeah. Ordinarily they're driving down the road, they slam on the brakes, they twirl it around, and they slam back in, which, by the way, you can totally do, as I demonstrated for you right there. And then, last but not least, somehow in the middle of the city, Red Lightning will be driving along some sort of cliffside thing, something rather, don't critique it, Ava, this is not the place for that. You're going to drop down the tailgate. You're going to drive this up and in. Now, something interesting here. Because of how the legs squeeze together, it's actually not possible to put Red Lightning into Mountain Blaster when the upper legs are together. You can't do it because, well, the space inside the cab where the leg sections spread themselves and go together actually blocks where the nose goes. And so to kind of cover up that gap, they actually installed a little spring door right here, which folds down and Red Lightning sticks in there. And then you've got a little clip on the bottom of Red Lightning right there, which will snap into that right there. And you can just drive it. Well, you can't really drive it up, unfortunately. It's not as simple as that, where you can just drive it up. You just kind of got to use your imagination. Make sure those legs are split, and then it'll snap right into position. Just like in the show. This isn't a mode, but the fact that it can do it is pretty great. Obviously, this was done intentionally. Of course it was done intentionally. Why would you need to point that out? See what being away for 3 years does to you? So you slam on the brakes, you bring it upright like this. There's these little tabs on the back. You're just going to lift up like that. And like that. Stand it upright like that. How high can I go? I'm not sure. That is it? Okay. Pull down the tailgate all the way back. Lift this up. And it's actually separately hinged here. Pull that back. This comes down, and it uses friction to hold into that position there. But I can tell you that after 11 years, 9 years, 11 years, I think, the friction on Red Lightning is still good right there. And then you don't want to do it when the roll bar here, whatever it is still pulled all the way down. You actually want to push up a little bit, or else this starts to develop wear and tear on it, and eventually the joints on it will crack. Anyways, you fold this up, kind of snaps into place, kind of. Slide this all the way up, it snaps into place, and there you have the Turbo Megazord. A little out of focus. I'm already missing the shooting shelf. Despite the individual Turbo Zords having fairly simple designs to them, the Turbo Megazord is, well, really anything but. Nice little vacuum metallized plastic on the head there. Nice detail. You can't really, I can't zoom in really close enough here, but above and below the eyes there are a little panel line detailing in there as well, so that's a nice touch. Nice head design. I kind of wish that the fog lights here, whatever it is, whatever they're called, had also been made. The part that... Why am I doing this now? I kind of wish that the part that folds down, this part, had also been made of die-cast metal, because technically the little fill-in areas, you can see the texture that they added in there. Clearly they meant to kind of diffuse the light or whatever it is. Not like that really helped, because it is a single piece. Actually, it's two pieces sandwiched together. 3 pieces. It's like an Oreo. But the thing about it is that if it had been made of die-cast metal as well, you wouldn't have had those filling pieces. You would have had just the light, and then you would have had the framework around it. Now, there still would have been a part to fold down and up again, but you wouldn't have had that kind of odd texture, kind of silvery, particle-y, grainy effect that they had in there. So you can tell they were trying to, okay, we can't recreate the toy the way it appears in the show, the way it is in the model, so we're just going to have to do a little fill in. That might have been a safety issue so that tiny little bits of hair and stuff didn't get stuck in there. That'd be my guess. Not that these toys were ever really concerned about child safety. You really don't have to worry about child safety with these things. The only thing that really bugged me about this, well, okay. You've kind of already seen the back, but it is interesting to note that on the actual Turbo Megazord that you see in the show, there's actually a lot of gray highlights for the undercarriages, but unfortunately, Desert Thunder kind of stands out if you look at just the back. I kind of wish that they'd molded this in black, and then like with the Red Lightning, they had done silver painted highlight along the side. I kind of wish they'd done that too, just so that it would all blend in the back here. But the fact that they went through the trouble of putting in such texturing on the back, that's nice. I like that. Kind of sort of unnecessary feature. I can't really say that. That's not really fair. Boy, I don't think I'm going to have anything to rant about at the end of this video. Maybe that's why I'm getting all the commentary through right now. See what 3 years does to you, Ava? Yeah, it's a little messy in here, but God, you cannot imagine how dusty this thing was on the shelf. You can even see a little bit of yellowing on the nose of Wind Chaser. There's very little posability on it. You would think that this is one of those occasions where a Megazord got really close to having posability, but for whatever reason they didn't carry through with it. And I can understand the hips not working properly, but obviously there was a knee joint in here waiting to happen. But for whatever reason, they decided not to roll with it for some reason. Ooh, get in there. Okay. Posability is as follows. This is actually fairly rare. I can't think off the top of my head any other occasions where this happens. Ordinarily, your average Megazord ratchets to every 45 degrees. This one ratchets to every 30 degrees. So you actually get 2 ratchets in there. Rare, but nice to have. All the way around. And yes, even after, what did I say, 11 years earlier? So it'd be, let's see, 96 to 2006 is 10 years. 2006 to 2015 would be 9 years. So this is actually 19 years old. Wow, I'm dating myself by saying that. This toy is 19 years old. It's still in fairly good condition. You cannot imagine the amount of, I said that already, the amount of dusting that I had to do on this earlier. So the only posability you're going to get is here. And because of the transformation, you also get a little bit of ratcheting in and out there if you like. And so that's it. You can't splay the hips. You can't make the legs move forward and backwards. You can kind of wiggle these, but that's just because of how the thing combines together. It's loose enough. There's enough give in the connection point that you can get away with wiggling that a little bit. I don't know for certain, do it at your own peril, of course. I don't know for certain if you can actually unscrew the head of the Megazord from back here. If you can unscrew it, because there's no decals on it. Unscrew it and then find some way of trimming parts in there so you can get the head to turn. I've heard of people doing it, but I'm not certain if it applies to the Turbo Megazord specifically. Like I said, I've heard of it, but I'm not certain at this point. But anyways, that's it for the wraparound and articulation of the Turbo Megazord. The Turbo Megazord comes with 2 accessories. It comes with the Turbo Megazord Saber. It's kind of weird how they interchange Saber and Sword with each other. Again, critiquing at the non-critiquing part, Ava. You're supposed to be objective when you do these reviews. Now I'm self-critiquing. What the hell? Some nice detail on the guard right there. And little headlights on this side there, which they actually highlighted. It would have been nice if they'd put in a decal or something in there, but they didn't, unfortunately. Because usually you turned it to the side. The Megazord would hold it, turn it to the side, the lights would come on, then it'd do its finishing attack. Doesn't get stored anywhere on the individual Zords or snapped onto the back somewhere. The sword just simply exists, and it fits in the hand thusly. And the Turbo Megazord Shield, what an original name, by the way. Which is actually very, very hollow. And if you're sneaky, you can do this. Ew. Note to self, if you're going to do that, Ava, you might want to clean it first. So yeah, know that you actually can pop the shield apart easily enough. A little peg right there, which gives you one of two options. You can either fit it into the hand, in which case it is very, very loose. I mean, wow. I mean, even when I got it back in '96, this was really loose. It never had the friction to hold in place. It flips around very easily. So the alternative, so that you don't lose it, there's actually a hole behind the, let's see, let's get some better light on it. There it is. There's actually a hole behind that wheel there. Actually, it's on both sides, by the way. So you could do this with either hand. And you could just peg it in there, which I was never entirely satisfied with how strong that was there. And you can have it attached to the side there. Although I don't think they used the shields very much. When they did, it was always held on the front. And that's it. That's the Turbo Megazord. So tell me, Ava, what is the difference between the Deluxe Turbo Megazord and its original Japanese counterpart, the DX Gekiso Gatai RV Robo from the 1996 Super Sentai series Gekiso Sentai Kadenja? Well, we all know that in the early years of Bandai America, basically the first decade, the majority of changes that were made really kind of cosmetic. You would change some materials to, you know, cheapen the costs. In the case of like the earliest Megazords, they would put tons and tons of lightning bolts all over the thing, which never made any sense whatsoever, but they did it anyways. Sometimes they'd remove electronic features, motors, lights, sometimes even just sounds. The Turbo Megazord, however, is one of those cases where it was just materials that they changed. All stickers and paint applications are identical to the RV Robo. It's exactly the same. Really, the only changes that they made were material. And you can see that right here. That is the RV Robo. And as you can tell, really not that different. They're really not. It's very minor stuff that they changed. What they changed was the front bumpers on Mountain Blaster, Wind Chaser, and Red Lightning. Had to think for a moment there. Those were changed from the original vacuum metallized plastic into this plain dull gray, or dark dull gray, whatever it is. They changed that. They also changed the roof racks on both Dune Star and Desert Thunder, so those were changed as well. But then you can see here, oh, the roof rack on Wind Chaser was also changed as well. So those were also chrome vacuum metallized plastic. But it's kind of weird though, because while they changed some chrome, the radial shield, which is what it's called in Kadenja, the radial shield, or at least the center here, and the guard, they were also both vacuum metallized plastic. While the radial shield was just silver, oddly, the guard on the sword, I want to say this is the RV sword, maybe, don't quote me on that, was originally gold, which is one of those rare occasions in Super Sentai where the toy did not match the in-video footage, or the in-series footage, I'm sorry. It would have made sense to have decals here and here, although, you know, the way the interior of these things are shaped, you know, the decals would have had air pockets that would have fallen out eventually. But the entire thing here was gold. I don't know why. It was the same gold as what you see here on the chest. So why this was gold, I'm not sure. And that's in the Japanese release. The original Japanese release, the guard was gold. I don't know why, but it was. It's weird. So in some cases, they removed the vacuum metallized plastic, and yet in other cases they kept it. Front bumpers of Desert Thunder and Dune Star, the head of the Megazord, and the chest, this central plate Not the die-cast metal part, but the plate in the middle was also vacuum metallized plastic. So it's kind of a weird toss-up. Oh yeah, that reminds me. All of the wheels along the side where it said, CR800 and power vehicle, and then also the rims, or I'm sorry, the hubcap rims, same thing, I guess. Those also had they were tampoed vacuum metallized plastic. So these were actually the tire rims and the hubcaps on all of them, with the exception of Red Lightning, or as it's known, Red Vehicle. Red Vehicle actually kept this color of plastic, but all of the others had, I call it tampo, I know that's wrong, but the wheel was not coated in the vacuum metallized plastic and then painted over. It was just kind of stamped on, or whatever it is. So all the tires have been changed as well. Not the material, but that vacuum metallized plastic tampo, or whatever it is, whatever the terminology is. Please do correct me. That was also changed as well. So they preserved, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of vacuum metallized silver, and yet they took it off of everywhere else. I'm not quite sure why they did that. Well, gold. I'm not sure why they did that. My guess is it would have cut about $2, $3 off the cost. This was like $45, $50, despite the fact how simple a transformation is and how simple the vehicles are, and there's not really any gimmick to it. The materials I don't really see why it is that Bandai America changed it at the time. We were used to paying $50, $55 for our Megazords, and this one is certainly no exception. This was, I want to say this was even like $45, maybe. I don't remember. It's been 17, 18 years since I got this, something like that. So, it would have been about 18 years. Wow, that dates me. So those were the big changes. Now there are bootlegs out there, like on CollectionDX.com. There's there's a bootleg of the RV Robo, and it actually has chrome in different places. But the official Bandai America release and the official Bandai of Japan releases, those were the changes that were made. There have been a lot of bootlegs of the RV Robo over the years. I can't tell you. No, seriously, I can't tell you. So beyond those minor decorative changes, the Turbo Megazord functionally and decoratively is more or less the same. Although, in my opinion, I still think they could have kept the chrome on all the things. I'd have been willing to pay $2, $3 more. That wouldn't have killed me, even back then. I can't quote it because I don't remember it exactly, because I don't know it very well. But there is a line from Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, which is where the Turbo Megazord makes its debut, where Zordon claims that the Turbo Megazord is the most powerful Zord ever made. Ever is a pretty doggone long time. I find it ironic that he would say that of a Megazord that has no built-in weapons except when those blasters are used. Like, it has no fold-out lasers or missiles or spikes even. It has nothing like that, and yet the Turbo Megazord is the most powerful Megazord ever made. That's a hell of a statement, and yet, for some strange reason, I believe it. Like, you don't see it on this toy, but one of the things I really like about the in-series and even the movie footage for Turbo, I mean, in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, it was all CGI, so that's different. But when they made the Turbo Zords for the big screen in 1997, one of the things I really liked that they did, which actually wasn't used in Gekiso Sentai Karinja, is that the Turbo Zords were covered in panel detailing. It's not here on the toy, but you wouldn't just see handlebars, you wouldn't see door handles for opening the doors, and you wouldn't just see the bumpers and things like that. No, these things were covered in like Death Star quality panel detailing. It was ridiculous, just detailing that had no business being there, and yet it made the Turbo Megazord look really, really awesome. At least the Turbo Zords it did. I want to say the Turbo Megazord stunt suit that they used is the same one that was used in Karinja, but I'm not entirely certain. They could have made a completely new one and then just, had an American stuntman working the suit. That's entirely possible because, hey, they made Malagor, so why not? But that's kind of a detail that makes me think, oh yeah, these are really powerful. I kind of wish that for a movie edition they had actually made a new version of the Megazord, which was kind of unheard of at the time. Actually, it was unheard of at the time, at least not until 2006, nearly 10 years later. 2006, it would have been 2007, because that's when the, what's it called? The Drive Max Megazord appeared. That was actually the first time where a mainstream Megazord was not imported from Japan, was made by Bandai America. Anyways, long story there. Most powerful Megazord ever. It's just a bunch of street vehicles. You know, nothing special about it. You know, it's ironic. This is actually the second round where Japanese audiences got to have street-legal vehicles and such running around in the Super Sentai. This is the second time with the RV Robo. The first time was actually, I want to say in the 80s, when the DX Turbo Robo, this is a bootleg by the way, made its appearance. And this was actually the first time, U.S. audiences didn't get to see this because this appeared before Power Rangers. But anyways, the Turbo Robo was actually the first time where they did. And you can see some sort of color variations, yellow, right? You got white here, you got blue and yellow down here. Black is pretty much the entire center torso. So, you know, it was a bit of an advancement. They actually had wheels on the feet, and they had to wear special sandals, I guess. Or the toy had to, in order to not slip around all over the place. I want to say those were springs on the inside there, which is nice, gosh, spring-powered vehicles in Super Sentai. I can't remember the last time they did that, other than here. So, you know, Japanese audiences, this was the second round, and this was the first round. Oh, by the way, Turbo Rangers and Power Rangers Turbo, they're called Turbo Rangers, so it's no wonder that Japanese audiences got a little confused when they started calling them Turbo Rangers. So there's a nice little bit of lineage right there to contend with. Most powerful Megazord ever. And it's just cars and trucks and coupes and race cars, and that's kind of it. I'll buy it. Really, there were only kind of two big complaints I had. You've already heard one of them. You know, the chrome could have been installed easily enough. But the other complaint I had, and this, ordinarily the proportions of the robots, big legs, tiny head, you kind of have to roll with it when you come to these deluxe transforming Megazords, because reasons, I guess. Like a small head, okay, whatever, you just have to deal with it, because, you know, it has to be able to fit inside of something. You have to be able to hide it. You don't have that kind of space to work with. And engineering a larger cavity becomes more difficult. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But one thing I can't quite figure out, and I kind of knew it then, but I didn't know why, because I didn't know about Super Sentai when I got this. But one of the problems I have always had to this day, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, obviously, is the arms are really small. Now, I mean, yes, obviously compared to the legs, they need to be small. Okay, whatever. One of the things that's nice about the Turbo Zords is all the vehicles are in correct proportion to each other. An SUV is bigger than a race car, which is smaller than a two-door coupe that you just kind of use on the... Okay, you know, you get that thing. Then there's the big monster truck thingy. It's not a monster truck because of the tires, but even when you put... Let's see, I'll grab the left arm. When you put Wind Chaser up against Red Lightning, the sizes are kind of correct. But if anything, this could actually be slightly larger. This is actually a pretty doggone small vehicle if you consider where the pilot is sitting compared to sitting in this thing. So, like, the size of the vehicles compared to each other is fine. But it's when you get to Megazord mode, that's kind of where it gets all screwy. That's the part that I don't really get. The arms could have been slightly bigger. You know, of course, Wind Chaser proportionally would have gotten a little bigger too, but it wouldn't really have ruined the effect either as an individual Turbo Zord. And definitely, when the Turbo Megazord is used in later combinations, and specifically with Wind Chaser involved, you can really tell the difference. The arms look really, really tiny comparatively. So that's kind of an issue. Now, I know, looking at this, I mean, really, that's the only problem with it, is just bulk it up a little bit. It doesn't need to stretch down further. It doesn't need to stretch higher. Just make them a little bigger. You know, put an extra ½ inch on Wind Chaser. That would have been, you know, that would have blown it up large enough that the arms would have been proportionate correctly. Because I know you're not supposed to look at the footage in the show, and you're not supposed to look at the concept art in that book I showed you earlier, but I look at this, and even compared to other Megazords and Super Sentai Robos, the arms are kind of small. It just always bugged me. They're really tiny. So that was kind of the other big thing. And again, it looks good it's in the right size with the individual Turbo Zords. But if you were to blow it or to make it a little larger for Megazord mode, if you were to put it next to the Turbo Zords, it wouldn't have been that big a deal either. The other thing I noticed, and again, maybe it's just because of the space they had available or the budget they had, the feet are shaped kind of odd. They angle inwards. They angle downwards, they angle inwards, which I never... And that, yeah, it's kind of nice. But one of the problems with that, and again, this is with a lighter combination, maybe I should save it for then, is Turbo Megazord it's not that it's back heavy, but it can fall over relatively easy. Maybe that's why they put die-cast metal on the chest. They were hoping that it would lean forward a little bit, which is all well and good. Or maybe they put die-cast metal in there because it would be able to hold its shape better. I don't know why they put die-cast in there. I'm just glad they did. This is actually one of the rare occasions where die-cast metal actually made it over into the U.S. releases. Japanese versions, they had die-cast metal all the time. Well, almost all the time. I'm wondering, though, if... and I can't verify it from in this book. I'm pretty certain that the RV Robo, those were indeed chromed parts. You've already heard me complain about the chrome. But I'm wondering if some of those weren't indeed die-cast metal and they changed them at a later date. I'm not certain about that either. It's been a while. The shield, you know, they've been able to put shields in hands for 15... I want to say that Karenja was the 15th anniversary of Super Sentai. That doesn't sound right. It was an anniversary series of some kind, I think. You would think after doing, you know, 15, 16 years of shields, handheld shields, that it's so flimsy. It's ridiculous. It pops out so easily. I never liked that. And then when you fit it in here, now granted the shield is only composed of 2 pieces, so okay, whatever, but and like I said, even when I got this back in 1996, 97, have I been saying 96 whole time? Yeesh. Even when I got it back in 97, this just, it's always been floppy. It's always been loose. The arms, because of where the joints are located, okay, whatever. But it's still a very solid snap all these years. I keep waiting for those joints to break, and they still haven't. Don't hex it, just don't. Putting it on the side here, like this, is all well and good. But even then, I wasn't entirely convinced. I mean, it amazes me that this didn't just slip off like that over time, and that the friction in here isn't outright dyed. I shouldn't have to put, you know, Elmer's glue or super glue or some sort of an not epoxy, but some sort of an enamel coating over the shield in order to be able to make it fit properly. The tolerances on this toy are just fine the way it is. It's just one thing I just didn't like that. I kind of wish there had been a decal on the back there to match the one on this side. Maybe there was. I don't know. Well, I've got that book. I don't think it was. Compared to some of the Megazords that we've seen certainly in the 2000-aughts, where you had one really gigantic Zord in the middle, and then you had a bunch of little ones, and then we got into parts swapping and limb swapping, and all the accessory Zords came with a bunch of mechanized parts on the inside, and they had their own little gimmicks and things like that going on. Those, in their own way, outshine the Turbo Megazord, or RV Robo if you must. But on the other hand, while this is also a simple design, and Super Sentai has always had simple Zord designs, and you know, even over in Super Sentai, I mean, literally the RV Robo, this thing here, these things, they don't transform at all. They just kind of fit up in there, and then you put the sandals on it, and that's it. So that's about as simple as you can get. So glad they don't do that anymore, by the way. But anyways, despite being simple, it has a bit of dignity and respect. And not just because it's the one of only 2 Megazords to ever grace the big screen, but it just kind of it works, but the simplicity of the design doesn't work against it. Unlike some of the modern designs, like the Gosei grade Megazord, which is oversimplified, and the quality of detail on it is not great. This thing can outshine that. Now, of course, that's my opinion, but then this is the commentary section, so I'm allowed to throw my 2 cents in. So Turbo Megazord doesn't suffer because of its simplicity. Yeah, you might not get much out of it in terms of, oh, you're just going to be rolling vehicles around and that's it, that's your gimmick. Well, what's the problem with that? They've been doing it for years. So this stands the test in time in terms of quality of product, not necessarily the gimmickry and the higher detailed expectations of the 2000s and the 2010s and on and on like that. Even when I didn't know about Super Sentai at the time. This was a blind purchase. I actually got this from a Toys R Us in Wichita, Kansas, where I've only been there once, ever, and that was for one of my dad's high school reunions. I went back there with him, and we just so happened to swing past a Toys R Us one day, and I saw it, and mine. And it was kind of a blind pick. I just picked it up without thinking about it. That's one of the nice things about these Deluxe Transforming Megazords. They're solid. They stand the test of time. And back in 1997, I bought it without thinking. I didn't need to think about it. It's a good quality product. Yeah, I worried at the time, I worried about these doors maybe being a little too flimsy and, obviously the shield, and that was kind of really all I ever worried about. See? So you can't even move the arm without the shield coming off. Complaint right there. Justified. And as I've been saying for the last few minutes now, it just worked. It worked back then, it works now. There's nothing inherently bad about it, that you can't, nitpick some of the detailing or whatever, nitpick the size of the Zords, whatever. Like, yeah, you can do that, but those are nitpicks. You're not going to end up with a bad quality product here. So despite the fact that it's not made anymore, the Deluxe Turbo Megazord does it for me. I'm still satisfied with it. And so, this is Ava Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off.